scheduled.
We're live.
Whoa, we are live. We are live. The stream is live. What's up, wrestling fans? Doug and Kevin with the Two Birds Wrestling Show. Kevin, what's going on, man?
I'm preparing for London. Well, not actually to go to London. That would be nice. But we're preparing to
you guys are
talk
going?
about
London? Ah, London's calling. London is
hey,
calling.
I didn't think I was going to SummerSlam either, and I went. So who knows? Maybe I'll end up at Wembley Stadium. Wouldn't that be nice? But no, we are talking about All In. We're going to give you everything you need to know about All In, including who we think are going to win the big matches. And that is our main event tonight.
It's a big main event. It's
a big main event. But before we do that, Doug, opening bell time.
Opening bell.
How about before we talk about All In 2024, let's talk about All In 2025.
I know, man. They're moving it. I kind of like it being out of the country for whatever reason.
You know, I think that there seemed to be something that just made us, after 2 years, think that this is their annual pilgrimage across the ocean to have their big event. But obviously, next year, for the next edition of All In, the announcement was made this week that All In Texas is scheduled for July 12th, a little earlier. Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. This is the home of Major League Baseball's Texas Rangers. It can hold more than 40,000 people for a baseball game. It will likely be closer to 50,000 capacity when you consider on-field seating for a wrestling event. This makes it by far the biggest venue and event that AEW has ever tried to run in America. How much larger? The only prior stadium show that AEW has hosted in the U.S. was their annual Grand Slam events that they used to have at Arthur Ashe Stadium. That was a tennis stadium, which had 20,000 people. So this is twice that many people that they're trying to put into a stadium. And hey, I appreciate ambition, but Doug, to me, the timing was a little strange considering they've had trouble filling up a 10,000 seat arena for a Dynamite taping to announce that you're going to try to run a stadium in Texas.
Man, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of what they're doing in Arlington anyway with, Collision right now. I mean, they can barely fill that place. I hope All In doesn't look as cheap as Collision does.
It just, when you're talking about at the historic low point for AEW's 5-year history when it comes to domestic attendance, it just seems like an odd move to do it now.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that there's some very lucrative business deals behind the scenes and with the city of Arlington itself. I mean, Tony Khan does seem to be for him being the mark that he is, a fairly shrewd businessman. So
maybe he is awfully confident too that the attendance situation will turn around over the next 365, and that come next summer, being the optimist that he is, we're going to fill a stadium in Texas.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
We'll see. We'll go from something kind of fun to, as much as I hate to steer away from the fun, we have some news to cover with the latest in the Vince McMahon case. Counsel for Janelle Grant, the former WWE employee, suing McMahon for sexual abuse, harassment, trafficking, all those awful things, filed a motion to strike the bill of discovery complaint made against her by Carlin Colker last week in the Connecticut Supreme Court.
What does all that mean?
Colker is a McMahon physician who Grant had filed a bill of discovery complaint against because she was claiming that the doctor, his practice, Peak Wellness, had been ignoring requests for discovery in her federal case against McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE. So Colker, I'm saying doctor, maybe he's just the owner, but Colker struck back by filing a bill of discovery complaint against Grant, asking her to provide social media and phone call information, submit to a deposition by Colker's counsel for a possible defamation case. So essentially what she was doing is she was asking for her own medical records.
Oh.
And they were refusing to, or they're at least ignoring. She claims that she's on three different occasions attempted to get her own medical records, and they are being ignored, probably because they would not look favorably upon Vince and WWE. Presumably, that would be their argument. So the doctor's refusal and all of that are,
interesting.
Just legal complaints, apparently, on the doctor's part as well as McMahon's part to silence her, is what she was claiming in her counter suit. So
very interesting, huh?
We're obviously going to keep on this. This is going to be something that is not going to be resolved this year. It'll be, if McMahon lives to see the end of this, that might be what the legal strategy is at this point. Think of like a Robert Durst kind of situation. Let's just string it on out until, you know how it can go. When you have millions, there's a very good chance that he can just live comfortably and die before he ever has to face ramifications for this. But we will continue to follow it.
Especially with his alleged ailing health right now.
Yes. Now back to the fun stuff.
Yay, fun stuff.
We'll get the next stuff out of the way. Let's talk about the John Cena farewell tour. Ever since it was announced that Peacemaker is going to be going away, we haven't seen him since on WWE TV. But
or maybe he's there, and Kevin, we just can't see him. Sorry, you set me up for that, though.
I did.
I blame that on you.
That's my own fault.
You totally set me up for that one. Thank you.
Cena has been busy. He is filming Peacemaker the next season that is probably going to keep him occupied throughout the rest of 2024. He was very forthright this week in interviews about he has a new movie that's out, and therefore he's doing the publicity rounds. Of course, gets asked about his farewell tour a lot. And so now we know a little bit more about just how many dates that is going to be. So Cena is saying that he reiterated 2025. It's a full year. And it'll be 36 to 40 dates, and is what he's saying, which is a pretty full schedule for someone of his age and stature. So that's not just TV. I'm sure there'll probably be a couple of Madison Square Garden house shows in there, but it sounds like he'll be working all the major pay-per-views and quite a few Raw and SmackDowns too.
Absolutely. We're looking at 52 weeks in a year, so up to 40 dates. That's a lot of John Cena next year.
That's a lot of John Cena. He also is saying and reiterating it is legit and that no amount of money is going to bring him back into the ring once he says those final goodbyes. I don't know. Cena seems like the level-headed type who has made enough money and has enough else going on. He might be one of the few wrestlers that actually live up to the retirement and keep it.
I think he could do it. I think so.
Yeah.
I think when he's done, he's done. I mean, there may be a spot, not even a spot, but, a walkout on stage, wave, maybe something behind the scenes in wrestling, but maybe he'll take over NXT.
Well, I thought that's CM Punk's position.
Shh, we're not going to talk about that.
It's still only a one price solution that isn't what we would want with AEW programming. When it comes to their pay-per-view events, we would love to have a low-cost option like a Peacock subscription that would get you to those events. So we're one step closer, not there yet, but one step closer. Earlier this year, we reported that Triller, the former Fight TV, was offering AEW bundles for past pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. Well, this past week, Triller announced that for the first time, AEW fans can pre-purchase future pay-per-view bundles at a discounted rate. So you can order, for example, the future All In from London we're getting ready to talk about, as well as the companion pay-per-view All Out from Chicago, which is coming up in September for $84.99, which is a 15% discount compared to buying them both separately at $50 a piece. They also announced that a second bundle will package up the 3 pay-per-views that AEW is going to end the year with, which is Wrestle Dream in October, November's Full Gear, and then December's World End. They didn't say what that trio would cost. Again, this isn't the low-cost solution, but if you are someone who is buying these on a monthly basis, go ahead and get yourself All In and All Out and save yourself $15 at the very least.
Absolutely. Because, that $50 a pop every month, especially with them back to back to back now as they are, we as wrestling fans have to find a better solution there.
absolutely need to. In the meantime, Doug, here's another solution. If you need a little more money in order to be able to afford these, enormous pay-per-view costs, perhaps you can get a loan from Easy E. That's right. If you ever wanted to make money with Eric Bischoff, now you can. Bischoff has a new career as a mortgage loan officer. All of this information came courtesy of the podcast king, Conrad Thompson, who, of course, made his own fortunes in the mortgage industry before building his podcasting empire that includes Eric Bischoff's 83 weeks. But on 83 weeks, Thompson apparently let the cat out of the bag that he had showed Bischoff the ropes after saving Bischoff some money on his own home loan. And now Bischoff was reportedly hooked, and so give him a call, I suppose.
So isn't Conrad Thompson also married to like somebody?
Ric Flair's daughter.
That's what I was thinking. He was married to a Flair. I was about to look it up, but yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, this dude did take his, and nothing against those of you in the finance industry, but a pretty, what is stereotypically not the most exciting line of work. And he's obviously very good at it, and parlayed that and his love of professional wrestling into a podcasting empire. And
more power to him.
But I mean, all these wrestling cons and things that he has helped to champion as well. He probably makes as much money in the wrestling industry as he does in his mortgage industry at this point. But who knows? Maybe Bischoff will too.
He's got to keep that money flowing in.
So some injury news. Damage Control member Dakota Kai's storyline absence isn't just storyline. She has a torn meniscus, is expected to be out for 8 to 10 weeks. So heal up quick. Best of luck to get back in the ring soon, Dakota Kai.
Man, this girl is made out of glass, I think. Every time she heals, she's broken again. I hate that for her.
Broken again. Yeah, I do too. Very talented lady, and hate it for her. This next story is much happier, though, Doug, and that is just before the biggest match of his career, AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland has released a new album. So if you like to swerve when you drive, you might be interested in giving a listen to the 11-track Motion Sickness, which is available now. I see you're looking it up.
I'm on Apple Music, right? Motion Sickness. Wait a minute. Is he with Phoebe Bridgers? Is this right?
That surely cannot. I think you must have looked up something else.
I googled Motion Sickness, and the first thing that comes up is Phoebe Bridgers. Let me make sure this is Let me turn this down so we don't get a copyright strike. But this can't be right.
No, that is a Phoebe Bridgers song, so it's the wrong Motion Sickness.
Huh.
But anyway, if you're interested, like Doug, in the Phoebe Bridgers Swerve Strickland mashup, then check out Motion Sickness, whichever one. I can vouch for the Phoebe one. That one's good. I don't know about Swerves.
Okay, so I found just a series, and I know this isn't the Motion Sickness episode, but there's Vestron Vulture, Neck Deep, Hot Chip, Sons of Sonic with an S, Hands Like Houses. I'm not seeing Swerve here. There's a lot of Motion Sickness songs.
Yes.
Gliz, Eliza and the Delusionals.
Maybe go into your apps and look up Swerve, and then you can find it from his list, because this is not his first album.
Even Dear Connor Oberst has, as Bright Eyes, has a song called Motion Sickness. I'm so confused right now. I will look into this later and report back, everyone. I'm on it. Motion Sickness, Swerve. Whose house?
That was going to be my last story. I thought it'd be a nice segue into talking about All In, but sadly, we have to end tonight once again with the passing of a legend. It's been a rough period for these types of announcements, and a particularly rough for the old school bloodline and the Anawai family. But Afa Anawai of the Wild Samoans died on Friday at the age of 81. Afa's brother and tag partner Sika just passed away in June. Because we just had to do this with Sika literally a few weeks ago, I will not recount the full Wild Samoan history or anything, just check out our archives. It's the June 30th show if you want to hear the full recounting of the many championships this team has won during its more than 20-year career. But I will summarize by saying this. The team were 21-time World Tag Team Champions across numerous promotions. 21. And I don't know that they get mentioned enough for being one of the all-time great teams, but when you hear a number like that, they clearly were.
Absolutely.
I did believe I mentioned in my Sika tribute that I didn't realize he was ex-military. Well, the same for Afa, as it turns out. Afa joined the U.S. Marine Corps at age 17, and when he left the service, he began training to be a pro wrestler under his cousin Rocky Johnson and his uncle Peter Maivia. His first match was in 1971, and it was he who convinced his brother that you should join me. And he trained Sika himself with a year experience under his belt.
Yes.
Afa retired from in-ring combat in 1995, continued in the business running his own promotion, World Extreme Wrestling. And then along with his brother, they were trainers at the Wild Samoan Wrestling Facility. Those trained by Afa and Sika included family like Yokozuna, Rikishi, the Tonga Kid, and a little guy named Roman Reigns.
Not familiar. Not familiar, no.
They also trained Virgil, Michael Hayes, Billy Kidman, Snitsky, and Batista. So
Snitsky. I miss Snitsky.
I know at the time of Sika's death, I shared my story about running into one of the Wild Samoans. So I'm going to, if you indulge me for a second, Doug, play a little
Absolutely.
show. Can you see
love
this?
Story. Oh my goodness. I love it.
So that is Sonny King, the manager, and right behind him, that is Afa and Sika on their way to the ring at the Logan Memorial Fieldhouse.
Yes.
The high school that Doug and I went to. This would have been one of my very first ever wrestling shows. And then this one's not as good a photo as this one, but I had to share this one as well from that night. Can you see who they're in the ring with?
Is that Michael Hayes?
That's the Freebirds. It's the Wild Samoans versus Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, the fabulous Freebirds. And yes, if you can zoom in on that, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy are in Logan Wildcat t-shirts.
Yes, I love it. That's great.
So a little blast from Doug and I's past, but yes, that's where we went to high school and where my very first professional wrestling shows all took place.
That is awesome.
Good times, good memories of the Wild Samoans. And as Doug mentioned when we were talking Sika and stuff, the Samoans were one of those teams that as a kid you would legitimately be frightened by.
Right.
But yeah, old school bloodline guys. So definitely condolences to the fans, friends, obviously the family of, I guess the Wild Samoans now are reunited. It's so strange for them to have passed so close together.
So close together. Absolutely.
Again, I wanted to end happy, but you have to do the tributes and what a wonderful life and legacy in the business. But let's talk what's coming up next weekend, Doug. Let's talk about All In.
And all 72 matches on the 5-day All In from Wembley.
If we don't start talking about it now, the matches will start before we're finished. Is what I'm
this
saying.
Is so true. Tony Khan.
Before we get into predictions on winners and losers and the background of this, let's just talk about the All In event itself. I know we mentioned it up front in our opening bell about the whole, London versus Texas and trying to run a big stadium here. Last year was the biggest event in the history of the AEW promotion. And for a while, and it's disputed now, they were claiming it to be the largest paid attendance in wrestling history. Yes. Very debatable now. I'm not debating the fact, though, that there was a ton of people in there. It looks great. It was a high point in the company. A lot has changed for AEW in its creative fortunes, its financial fortunes, it's just attendance. Like, it's not at the peak of the business that they were still riding the wave of. You could argue when that peak was, but they were definitely last year at a higher point than they are now.
Agreed.
How do you think, Doug, this is coloring the overall event? Do you think it's going to look empty? Do you think that that it's going to have the same level of excitement. I mean, what should we reasonably expect of a 2024 stadium All In London?
That's a great question. I really think that, like the WWE, anything outside of America is going to be a bigger draw. So I
I
think they
agree.
have that. I think they have that going for them going into London. But
And
I,
maybe more excitement as well,
yeah,
just more heat.
and you've got Will Ospreay on the ticket, so I think that's a big selling point for London. But I did notice they're already trying to temper expectations. I forgot whose promo it was this week, and I don't even remember if it was Raw or Rampage or Collision or what. Obviously, it was not Raw.
I was like, well, somebody talking about it on Raw?
um, but a Dynamite or Collision maybe, but somebody had mentioned, in front of 50,000 people, not the 83, whatever it was that they alleged last year. But they're already tempering those expectations and doing a nice round, lower, dropping it by like 30 grand,
I think they would
50,000.
probably be smarter to set it up for 50,000 so it doesn't look
Right.
as empty, and let's have a good show. I mean, 50,000 people is a lot of people.
Absolutely. Nothing to sneeze at,
And
but
no, especially for AEW, the number two
Mhm.
promotion. And I agree with you. Overseas, you're more likely to draw a crowd. You're more likely to get a hot crowd just because they don't see you as often. So I still expect it's going to feel like a big deal and look like a big deal. But I don't think that we should expect that they're going to do anything close to what they did last year.
I don't think so. And, maybe that's a reason why they move it to Arlington the year after. Maybe they've got a more lucrative financial deal in place with Arlington with the relationship they've already established there. I don't know. I just hope it looks better than Collision does.
Well, they should put the money into this one because this is their version of WrestleMania now.
Yes.
When you're playing one stadium a year, that's now your big show. So this is the big show of the year. Let's get into it, Doug, by first start talking about the one match we know for sure is going to be in the pre-show and not the actual ticketed paywall of All In. And that is the mixed tag match of Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway versus Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii in this mixed tag match. The winning team will choose the stipulation for the match that Nightingale and Statlander are going to have at All Out a couple of weeks later.
Why is Statlander and Stokely? Why is Stokely going to be in a ring with Tomohiro Ishii? Why?
For comedy's sake, if you have seen the setup for this, Stokely does not look nearly as confident as Statlander does.
Thumbs up. There we go.
Stokely cracks me up, man. Stokely is absolutely hilarious and wonderful on the mic, but because it's Willow and Tomohiro Ishii, I'm thinking that Willow is picking the stipulation for the match.
Yeah.
And Stokely is taking a pinfall.
That would be a good way to go because it's so obvious. But what if? Just for kicks and giggles, I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here and say it is so obvious that Stokely is taking that pin from the Stone Pit Bull. I'm saying that
Stokely will cheat his way into winning.
Yes, somehow there's going to be shenanigans, and Stokely is going to get a pin over Ishii.
I know I said it the other way, but I can very well see that when it comes to All Out, that Willow's got to be the one that comes over there.
Right.
So to have the odds stacked against Willow, it makes sense to have the stipulation favor Statlander. So
classic babyface. Yep.
Stokely will find a way to cheat his way into a victory here.
Yep. So we're in agreement. Stokely's going over Tomohiro Ishii somehow.
I just changed my mind live on the broadcast, but I'm looking ahead and chess.
Think about it.
Looking at the chess match instead of the checkers match. I'm like, well, it makes sense that Willow's the big star. Not that Statlander isn't great in her own right, but you got to stack that
face. Yeah, you got to stack it up and have that baby face overcome adversity to get that.
It could be kind of. I wouldn't expect Thez versus whomever classic, but it will be entertaining to warm up the crowd. This next match, Doug, that's all we know for sure is in the pre-show, but some of these matches have to drift into the pre-show in order to fit in the amount of time that AEW has on a pay-per-view. So I'm going to say this next one is the one in my mind that most likely, and that is the Casino Gauntlet match for a future AEW World Championship.
That makes sense.
It makes sense because this is typically the let's get everybody a pay-per-view payday match that otherwise isn't on the pay-per-view. It also makes it for us the most difficult match to preview because the only person we currently know in this match is Orange Cassidy. So by default, I'm taking Orange Cassidy against the field and saying Orange Cassidy is winning the Casino Gauntlet match.
I'm going to say all TBA is going to win.
Your odds are better, I think, in that than mine.
I mean,
we don't know enough about this one.
We really don't. I mean, what kind of surprises you think we're getting here? You think we're going to get anybody showing up for a paycheck, or are these all AEW folks we're going to get to see? No surprises from the outside.
Tony Khan is not one to let a good TBA go or a multi-person match go without making a big debut. Is this where Ricochet shows up? Sometimes Tony saves those big debuts for these type of moments, and it would not be a bit surprising to me to see somebody inserted in here. Look at whoever's contract's up. Look at the rumor mill, whoever we have been hearing is headed to AEW. And I would say you at least slot one or two wild cards, non-current roster members into that match. It's Tony's style.
So maybe a Ricochet, maybe a Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And if that happens, put the money on one of them.
Yeah.
Because that's another way that Tony likes to make a splash is put somebody in and then immediately put them over. So
absolutely,
if one of those two guys show up, they're at least in it at the very end, climbing that ladder. Doug, let's talk about Father of the Year here. Christian Cage, Kill Switch, Nick Wayne, maybe not Kill Switch, maybe Mother Wayne is in there instead of Kill Switch. Because she is the champion now, apparently, according to Christian.
I'm so confused by the patriarchy from times, and this is one of those times, and I'm really confused what's going on.
We got a 4-way match, a ladders match for the AEW Trios Championship for those still following the Trios titles, but the patriarchy are the champions. They are defending against the Bang Bang Gang, House of Black, and to be decided. We got a unnamed 3-man team apparently that's being inserted into this. So we don't have all the pieces to our puzzle here, Doug, and making this prediction, but I'm going to say that the patriarchy retains.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Yeah, the patriarchy is going to retain through shenanigans. Yeah, Kill Switch, Nick Wayne with Mother Wayne. Bang Bang Gang.
I mean, the Bang Gang, they had these titles for a long time. I don't know that they are going to put them back on them just yet. We don't know who the mystery team is. For whatever reason, the House of Black just can't get out of the blocks in AEW.
Really can't. I'm surprised.
So by default, almost, just because his heel bit is so good that there's going to be some other way that the patriarchy eventually implodes. And I don't think it starts here.
No, I think the patriarchy as a heel faction is too tight right now. I mean, so whatever comes from this, it's just going to be more shenanigans from the patriarchy to keep these belts for now anyway.
Speaking of old guys that like to do shenanigans, Doug. Hi, Doug.
Hey.
We got the learning tree, Chris Jericho, along with Big Bill and the Bad Apple, taking on Hook. And this is a last chance match for Hook. If he doesn't win this one, he will not get a chance at the For the World title ever again. With one eye, Hook is going to secure his father's title and make sure it is no longer known as the world title, back to the original intentions of Taz.
So I think it's obvious that Hook has to take the belt back here. Do you think there's some? I mean, clearly Hook has the odds stacked against him because we have all disciples of the learning tree here. Surely there's some intervention on Hook's side at some point, right?
Absolutely. And it would be great to see Taz himself
Yes.
lock in a Taz mission on the Bad Apple or something like that. But yeah, Hook's got to have some friends.
He's got to have some friends. I guess we'll see here, but yeah, at the end of this match, Hook is standing tall. I'm not sure how it happens yet with friends, but Hook is standing tall.
Jericho has never cared to put over younger talent, so that's
Absolutely.
what this match is. And it'll be entertaining. It won't be match of the night, but it'll get a good laugh. And honestly, Hook needs a little bit of momentum. There was a time we thought the Hook was the next big thing, and I would argue that at some point his momentum kind of stalled. Working with a talent like Jericho and having a talent like Jericho put you over could be just the thing needed to get Hook back on track.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, I think Hook's a great character, great wrestler. I mean, great pedigree. Not the move, but the actual family lineage. So, I think it's his time.
Doug, this next person doesn't need rebooted. He has been rebooted once and it's worked out quite swimmingly for him. I'm talking about the scapegoat, Jack Perry, wrestling in a coffin match because, Tony Khan loves stipulations. Every match has to have a stipulation and a title at stake. This one for the AEW TNT Championship. Jack Perry is defending that title against Darby Allin. I don't want to see Jack Perry lose just yet. I think that Jack Perry as a heel coming back, being part of the elite, it's working. I like that he wrestles a different style. The high-flying Jack Perry that has the crowd-pleasing moves, he's put those in his back pocket, and he's just going out there and cheating and being vicious. And I know Darby Allin is a pillar of AEW and tends to come up big in these kind of situations. I think this will be a great match. I would like to see Jack Perry win it. I don't know if I'm just voting with my, I don't think I'm voting with my guts here, because if I was just going with my gut, I would say that Darby Allin has a good shot at this, but I want to see Jack Perry win. So I'm going to say that this one goes Jack Perry's way.
I think Jack needs this win. I think we've had the character overhaul now, and really what happened to him at last year's All In was the best thing that could ever happen to his career. I think really, we questioned at the time, who did this benefit? Why was it done? But, Tony Khan actually showing that All In like CCTV footage, at that Charleston show we were in, really paid dividends for Jack Perry. And I don't want to say Tony knew what he was doing. I think it was still a roll of the dice. It just happened to work out. But, Jack needs this more than Darby. And I think it kind of sets the stage to make it just like Stokely, getting pinned by Tomohiro Ishii. I think, it being a coffin match, lends to go, okay, well, this is clearly it's up Darby's alley. But I think, again, it establishes a swerve, if you will. And Jack should and hopefully does come out on top, because I want it to happen too. I think it's more of that rebranding that needs to happen with him. So he's no longer Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He's Jack Perry, future Hall of Famer Jack Perry.
We're in agreement on that one as well. Let's see about this next one.
All right.
Which is another one that you could make an argument for, that both of these ladies could use this win at this stage. But I'm going to say that when it comes to Mercedes Moné defending her title against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the TBS championship at stake here, I am saying that Mercedes Moné, with the help of Camille, continues her reign, because it's still early in it and Britt Baker is just back, and we're all excited that Britt Baker is back, but it just makes the chase that much more impactful and sweet later on down the run, not now.
I hate it when we do this, but yes, I have to agree with you because, with Camille, Britt Baker has the out. It's the odds are stacked against her in this. So there's that reasonable reason for her to lose through some heel shenanigans with, the big bad bodyguard, the heater that is Camille in this case. And Monet will hold on to it for a while because Monet is money. And I know I've said this before.
She's one of the bigger She's one of the bigger stars they have, right? And not that Britt isn't, but I do think that Mercedes on top right now makes more sense.
It does. I agree. From just all around standpoint, it makes more sense. She needs to hold on to that. Baker needs to chase it, and it sounds like maybe Britt's a little bit out of favor behind the scenes right now, if things are to be believed, and that does play into booking sometimes.
It's true. It's true, especially at this time of year. I'm sure that Tony has some all in PTSD.
I'm sure he does. Let's not rock any boats.
Speaking of some of the executives AEW, let's go on to the executive EVPs. The Young Bucks defending the AEW Tag Team Champions in a championships in a triple threat against FTR as well as the Acclaimed. This is going to be a potential stealer of the night just because these six men can go and will all work their butts off to make this a nonstop. If anything, don't expect selling. That might be the only thing that you'll be able to knock against this match. Is this will be the quick boom, 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 move, high flying submission, break up. Because you got not just two teams, you got an extra team involved in this. This is going to be chaos, but it's going to be awesome.
Awesome chaos, absolutely. And here's the thing, if FTR and the Young Bucks don't necessarily need this, I want to see an FTR Young Bucks not solo, but just FTR Young Bucks. Throwing the Acclaimed in there makes me think that, when all is said and done, the Acclaimed are going to come out on top. And it's a great way to get new talent. Not that the Acclaimed are new at this point, but, the younger talent. Because FTR, classics, top guys, right? Young Bucks, they're EVPs. Let's give everybody loves the Acclaim, Kevin. Let's give them back those title belts and let them run with them for a while. That's what I'm saying anyway. What say you, sir?
Here's one of the few disagreements of the night.
All right, cool.
I am saying the Young Bucks maintain their championship as part of their act and on-screen evil executive VPs. I think that eventually we will get that one-on-one scenario. It would be a repeat of last year's All In, which is probably why they put the Acclaimed in there. But sure. I also think that it's maybe a reason that they're not going to switch the titles just yet. And I'm tipping my hand here, rather, at what happens in these next three matches. Because to date, I've had a whole lot of champion retains predictions.
Right.
And this is the big show of the year. Think back to SummerSlam a few weeks ago when WWE, who is really stingy with title moves anymore, moved 4 belts in one night. So to date, I've predicted a lot of champs retaining. All right. That goes to this next one of a recently crowned champ in MJF going against the man that everyone will be there to see. England's own Will Ospreay for the AEW, I guess we say American Championship because of MJF, but MJF is dropping this belt back to Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay will have his hand raised in Wembley Stadium. So that's definitely happening, right?
Absolutely. I really thought we were heading towards a swerve, Ospreay winning in Wembley in his first year in AEW. I still think Ospreay wins at Wembley in his first year in AEW, but just not that top prize. He's getting this belt back. Yeah. Yep. And MJF has done such a great job of being such a great heel that, this could be, a classic, feud that goes on and on and on for quite a while. We could have our Flair Steamboat, here.
Now, it is a home country audience. It's going to have tons of heat on it for that reason. MJF gets tons of heat, even if it wasn't in front of an English crowd. But we sort of brought this up a few weeks back when we talked about the 1 hour match they gave away. I know it was done to switch the title. Do you think that in some ways they did this match here at Wembley a bit of a disservice by giving us so much the first time out? Because that match was a dynamite match that could pretty much take half the show, which it did.
Yes.
They're not going to be able to top that.
That's what I was going to say.
10 matches.
Right. What
You're
are
not
they
going to have
to
the
do?
same amount of time. It'll be great, but it'll be 25, 30 minutes. So I really do think they kind of hurt this match a bit by giving us too much, which is, I think you called it out in your Botch of the Week a few weeks ago. It's kind of Tony's MO that I give more than I should until we get you at the pay window and make you pay to see. Yeah, they've already given away the better, like a 60-minute match they cannot do here with 10 other matches. So,
well, it is an AEW pay-per-view. He could go 2 hours this time.
I expect this could very well be match of the night. I just don't know that it can live up to the high standards of what they already gave us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, what are these guys going to do in this match? I mean, that Dynamite match was amazing, but it was a Dynamite match where they had an hour. I mean, if rumors
opened the show,
and if rumors are to be believed, it's why Britt Baker got suspended because she was read about it having so much TV time.
Yeah. We're at least in agreement though that Will Ospreay wins his championship in front of friendly home audience.
Oh yeah, he's getting that belt back.
Next up, Doug,
what we
have the slut that won't be rebuffed, the tramp that's still our champ, timeless Toni Storm. I'm sorry, man. She cracks me up when she does that stuff. I mean, it just the way it rolls off her tongue so effortlessly without her cracking up. It's just gold. But timeless Toni Storm, one of the greatest success stories of the last year in AEW, puts her championship on the line against the person in physical possession of the championship belt itself. And that is the Glamour Mariah May. Fortunately, this doesn't have stipulations, and it's not a lipstick on a pole match or anything like dumb. Like he's just letting these two main events be singles matches for championships. Thank you for that restraint, Tony, because that's all this match needs to be is Toni Storm getting her revenge on Mariah May, but Mariah May is the ascendant here, and I think that we're seeing a title change in this match.
I agree. I was going to say, all we need. What's the butler's name? I want to call him Vincent or Virgil. Luther. Thank you. It's not Vincent or Virgil, but at least we don't have Virgil suspended on a cage above the ring. And whoever wins gets custody of him. But it's still a week away, so it could happen. But I think the Glamour is walking out champion.
Man, Toni Storm has been one of the great, as I mentioned earlier, just one of the best things on AEW television for the last year. But she's held this title a long time. She's the longest reigning champion. I'm fairly certain I can say that. She's the longest running champion in AEW at the moment. It, though, behooves Tony Khan to elevate Mariah May, who has been a revelation, honestly. She has been the biggest thing that Toni Storm has had to a legit, I can see this person taking the title from you. Tony's act has been so hot that even when she's faced great competition, I haven't been able to imagine them moving the title off her. In this scenario, Mariah May continues her ascent to the top of the card, which has been deserved through both her actions, her heel work, that beautiful, beautiful turn, the viciousness of it. And Toni now gets to transition into the faded movie star who has fallen from her perch. And that alone is something we've not yet seen Toni do, which can extend this act out even longer. And I think will make for great television moving forward.
Agreed. 100%, my brother.
Which brings us to this last one.
Ooh.
Which is, I don't know if we can agree on this one or not, because I could argue this one two different ways.
So can I. So can I,
Man,
and I don't know which way to argue it on. Quite honestly, I've been racking my brain about this, how this comes down.
we're
How
talking
would
the
I book it?
AEW World Championship match here.
Yes,
Swerve Strickland, the champion, with Prince Nana taking on Bryan Danielson in a title versus career match for the AEW World Championship. We all know that Bryan is stepping away at some point this year. He's made it clear that he only has a few more matches and he wanted to quit in 2024 to go be with his family. He'll still wrestle, he says, but just maybe not full time, just the occasional match. I also know that part of why Bryan Danielson has never held a championship in AEW is that he came to AEW, and it's pretty well known behind the scenes that he has argued against being a champion and that he wanted to come back and have good matches and put young guys over. That makes me think that this might be it, because Swerve Strickland, while not a youngest of men, is also still a young talent who never got his due until his recent run in AEW, and has done a great job. But that title versus career, like if that, once they made it that, it either means this is truly it for Bryan, but
right.
then Wrestle Dream in October is in the Tacoma Dome in Bryan's backyard of Seattle. So I can't imagine Bryan not being on the card outside of Seattle. Are they, no pun intended, trying to swerve us with that? I can see Tony Khan trying to convince Bryan, you deserve this. We want you to be champion before your time is done. He did that with Sting. You know, he talked Sting into going out on top, even though Sting wanted to go out on his back. I'm sure Bryan's that old school, I want to go out on my back, and probably is lobbying to let Swerve hold it. I think, though, in your biggest show of the year, it just means more when your last image is of a baby face with arms raised. And it means that, you know, maybe he goes out in Tacoma on his back and says goodbye at the end of handing over the belt. But I'm going to go with Bryan Danielson becomes a world champion, and that's the Chris Jericho thing of being the you know, one of the few now. He would be second, I suppose, who was a world champion in WWE as well as in AEW. But I'm going with my heart on this one, that despite that career stipulation, which made me doubt for a moment, I'm still saying Bryan Danielson.
So with this new knowledge that Wrestle Dream is in Washington, because I wasn't aware of where it was,
Yep.
It does make sense, because I was really leaning towards it being Swerve. That Wembley being Swerve's house. I thought that Bryan would go out on top, near the end, or go out on his back near the end of 24, but it sounds like it's nearer the end now. I think it does make much more sense, because you don't want Bryan to be the champion all the way, or maybe you do, all the way through the end of the year to World's End, because then it's obvious that if he's up against somebody, it doesn't really, either way, he's done at that point. So you can't have that career stipulation again. Plus, it was just done, so you can't have that. But to have Swerve come back around and start chasing that, to come back after it and take it in basically his backyard, then that's a really good story, where he almost destroys Bryan, in London, and then finishes the job in his own backyard.
I just can't see Bryan Danielson going his whole AEW career without a single championship. I just imagine that Tony was twisting his arm, telling him that he deserves this at least one run with a title.
Yeah. And it's a short run, which I think is an easier sell to Bryan.
Yeah.
You've got this short run, you're retiring anyway, you're stepping away from it, in-ring activity, because I'm sure he's going to still be a presence in AEW behind the scenes. But yep, Wrestle Dream's location alone has sold me on this too. I'm going to go with you.
Could be wrong.
We could be.
And if we are, I am really been happy with Swerve Strickland's reign. I kind of don't want to root against either of these men, which makes for the best wrestling matches when you go in liking both men well enough that you'd be happy with either outcome. because you can say that both of them deserve this big stage victory. Swerve as someone still building a resume. Brian is the cherry on top of a Hall of Fame already career. I mean, both are great stories. I would be happy with either one, but I think that you and I both are leaning Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, definitely leaning Brian. And I think they've went out of their way to paint Swerve and have Swerve go full on heel too, not just tweener, but we've gone to like the vicious, I'm going to break in your house and, and cut a promo on your baby boy in his crib kind of Swerve Strickland here.
Yeah, my favorite Swerve Strickland is
Mine
the
too,
vicious
actually.
one too, man. I love that.
Let's see if Brian drinks any of his blood.
With that, we have a 10 matches, which means there's at least 5 more that'll be announced this week on Dynamite for
I'm going to have to take a few days off work next week.
10 days off, or 10 days off. 10 matches would be actually restraining for Tony Khan. Sometimes he'll have 12 or more. So if we keep it to 10, we should be happy.
If he keeps it to 10, but MJF, Ospreay could go an hour and a half this time,
And honestly, I don't anticipate that Swerve and Brian will have less than 25, 30 minutes either.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those 2 matches alone are an hour's worth of your pay-per-view time.
Yeah.
Should be a good show. We look forward to it. Tune in next week and we will give you our review. You'll see whether we were right or not about these and what we felt about the show. But for now, we're hitting a big finish, Doug.
Let's do it.
What do you have for a botch this week, my friend?
So I get that times are tough for AEW, getting folks in the door, getting seats filled. And it does make sense. I think it's a good idea to set up something where they have a home base like they did during COVID, there with Dailies in Jacksonville. But this Arlington, Texas place, man, if you're trying to sell yourself as the second biggest promotion, playing with the big boy that is WWE, this just, to me, this whole venue is a botch. Not that it's a bad place, but I have ranted about this place since they landed there. It just looks, it looks like it would be more suited for Rampage viewership or Ring of Honor. Not that either one of these are lesser products, but in the mind's eye of wrestling fans, you look at WWE, you look at SmackDown and Raw, then you look at Dynamite and Collision. It's not, Collision isn't that big second brand right now from the number 2 brand in North America. It's just a botch all around for me, and it just really got on my nerves this week.
Well, I mean, you will be happy to know that this was the last Collision from this residency. So the problem's going to be if Tony and AEW continue to have trouble filling arenas by full scale touring. If this was in any way lucrative, they will find another arena to set a home base in that's 1,000 seats or whatever, and we'll do this again. If it saved them money, they will almost have to do this again based on where they're at right now in their attendance numbers. It's just, how do you make the product look major league and run it like that?
I think you can do like an Impact Zone or, like even NXT, those smaller crowds, you can make it look, big time with a small crowd. It can be done. This does not look big time with just a small crowd. It just looks, looks like bingo hall almost to me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
About you?
My
botch
of the week. So Paul Walter Hauser. Do you know who Paul Walter Hauser is?
Who is? What do I know this name?
He is an Emmy-winning actor. He is a Golden Globe-winning actor. He's known for his roles in the TV series Blackbird. He played Richard Jewell in the movie Richard Jewell. Yeah. He's in Cobra Kai. He's in I, Tonya, many other films. And also in the last YouTube special for MLW, Paul Walter Hauser beat Filthy Tom Lawler in a match.
What?
Yes.
No.
Hey, listen, I know it's not unusual for a celebrity to enter the world of pro wrestling. And usually if a celebrity does, despite the odds, that celebrity wins 9 out of 10 times. It's just the way that it's done. But this was a pretty straight up victory, a hardcore victory. It was a pre-tape. There was no audience. There was a pre-tape. It took place in an MMA octagon cage. They escaped the cage. They entered a wrestling ring. It wasn't like, Filthy Tom Lawler slipped and hit his head on a cinder block or anything. Like, Paul Walter Hauser pretty much had equal offense for much of the match with him.
No.
And Lawler's a former world champion of MLW, which further just stretches the disbelief we have. And Paul Walter Hauser, no offense, I'm happy that a big actor is such a big wrestling fan that he'll go to the independents to wrestle. Right. I think that's cool. And I like the guy. Blackbird was fantastic. But you shouldn't put him over a world champion. Like, you don't see, Drew Carey, had a bit in the Royal Rumble. They didn't let him beat John Cena. Like, there's just certain levels to this stuff, even with the celebrity thing. Paul Walter Hauser is not Logan Paul, is not going to be around, doesn't, it's stretched all credibility to the point of breaking. And like, no, come on. I get it. You're independent. You can get a lot of attention by getting a big name actor in on your product. I just didn't care for it.
Huh. I'm not sure what to say about that, but I do. Okay, I guess. Yep. I mean, what wasn't David Arquette the WCW World Heavyweight Champion?
And how did that go over?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. That's kind of the way this was. It's like, okay, have your little comedy match and let something weird happen and the celebrity ends up going over, but don't make somebody world champion. Don't put someone over your world champion straight up, like a legit fighter like Filthy Tom Lawler, who has an MMA background, loses in an MMA style hardcore contest with Paul Walter Hauser.
No.
My botch of the week. How about performance of the week?
Performance. I always get this confused. Performance. Okay, we got match and performance. Okay, performance, performer. So it's a multi-week. It's a story arc, Kevin, going back to when he leaped from the ring through a table, smashing his leg, maybe injuring his ankle. We don't know. He yells, he screams, he tells Solo to get back in the ring and take care of business because he can't move. And, it works out good because is it scripted? Is it not? Did he legitimately hurt himself? Did he not? Look, he's wearing a boot afterwards. Triple H says he's banged up. Even Swerve tweets about it. Carrying on, we have AEW. We have AEW World Champion continuing the narrative of a WWE wrestler being injured, only for Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf, to show up and destroy the original tribal chief this week. And for that, he is my performer, man about town, beast that is Jacob Fatu. You are awesome, good sir. You are awesome.
He is very awesome. And along similar lines. So at first, I'll be honest, I had in my notes at first, I was going to give it to Bronson Reed for just 2 straight weeks worth of performances that have positioned him as a big monster heel, eyeing a higher spot on the card after taking Seth out and everything and not being able to be stopped. But then I turned on SmackDown, and this bloodline angle runs at the end of SmackDown. And not only did it once again steal the show, it stole the wrestling week. And I want to say this. These men were in the ring doing this the very day that they lost a patriarch in the family, a legendary bloodline OC in Alpha. So kudos to Jacob, to Roman, who had lost his father a couple months ago, now loses his uncle, to everyone in the bloodline involved for just making such good television at a time that had to be very difficult to even pull that off for them on Friday, and they did so. Like, kudos all the way around.
It's a family business, and clearly, they get that, man. And I'm sure it's what,
Oh, yeah, it's what they would have wanted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. What do you mean? No, you go out there and do this show.
So more, let's talk match of the week, Doug.
Man, okay, I give AEW a lot of grief for being in this place in Arlington, but I gotta say that match out of the gate, and Dustin Rhodes is just collecting all the ROH belts right now. I may be one of the few people that has actually missed Sammy Guevara on television too, but I
subscribe to Honor Club, man. If you want to see him, that's where he's been.
I like watching. I watched Sammy's vlog. I like Sammy in the ring. I get that he can be problems. I never want to hear about his CM Punk kind of like problems behind the scenes. But Sammy's great in the ring. And at one point, I was just like, what are they doing? Throwing all of these run-ins out of nowhere. And then I kind of started to dig it because everybody would come in and run in and you're like, okay, this is the end of it. Then you got the guy with the big bull head coming in. And I'm like, I love this dude. He is cool. But then all the kickouts and the near falls, I'm like, okay, you got me now. And by the end of it, they completely had me. They won me from beginning to end. From beginning, I didn't really care. I was very put off by this arena that they're in. But by the end, I was totally into it. They won me. They did their jobs. They did them well. And for that, I gotta give it to them. The new Ring of Honor tag team holders, although they need a name now, Guevara Rhodes or something. I don't know. Spanish Rhodes. I don't know. They need a name. They need something.
It is cool to see Dustin at this stage of his career still going the way he can go. It's impressive.
Yes.
And it was a good performance. It was a good match. I'm going different night. I'm going back to Friday night. There was just so much SmackDown goodness because at first I had thought there's no way in the world there's going to be a match better than Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes. That match was amazing. Okay. And then the main event comes and DIY and the Street Profits tangle and kick out after kick out. And this is awesome chance. And seriously, go see SmackDown if you didn't watch SmackDown. Between those two matches and the Bloodline angle I was just referring to and Doug was talking about in his performance of the week, SmackDown stole the wrestling calendar for me this week. It was a great night on Friday. And my match of the week is DIY versus the Street Profits.
Not only was it a great night on Friday, and it's just a great time to be a wrestling fan, Kevin. We got All In, All Out, Bash in Berlin coming up. Well, my goodness, there's just so much tasty, good wrestling happening right now. So
much good wrestling right now, and we appreciate you listening to us talk about it and let us know what you think. Put your comments down below wherever you're watching, whatever platform, whenever you're watching. We will get back to you on those. We appreciate that. As for what's up next for us, we're just previewing All In. We got to review it, but next Sunday night obviously is All In, so we're not going to go opposite that. Obviously it is going to be on during the day. Remember, this is in London. It should be off before we would go on the air, but we're just going to drop a review the week of. So watch for that content the week of All In. So Doug's running this one solo. I appreciate that, sir. I
got you, brother.
Carrying the baton.
You've carried me a many time.
After that, we're going to take a little bit of a summer break for a couple of weeks. We will be back to our live normal Sunday night show on September 15th, at which point we will have a lot have changed in the landscape of televised wrestling. We're getting some channel switches very, very soon. We're going to go through your wrestling calendar week, day by day, and letting you know where your favorite wrestling shows can now be seen. So that's one you will definitely want to come back and join us for. But definitely check out our All In review dropping next week. And until that time, we'll say goodbye for now.
Now go watch some wrestling. Good night, everybody.